Good evening, Simon here, Explosive Action. A few days ago, the Heavy Metallurgy live crew did a record collecting roundtable discussion, and they were talking about the pros and cons of collecting music. One of the topics that came up was, do you have a firebox or a fire shelf? That is, something you grab quickly and throw it into the car that has your best of your favourites, the stuff you could not replace, the stuff that you love too much, the stuff you get when the house is burning down. So let's take a look at mine. So let's take a look at the tub A through Z as we go here. This is all the favourites, all the things I will save. If the building burns down, let's start at the front. We get Abomination, awesome thrash. These are, of course, as I've said, all OG presses. I'm only going to be keeping these ones if the house is burning. The hardest things to get back. Old Nuclear Blast pressing, good stuff there by Abomination. We've got Absu Barathrum. For me, this is still the best Absu. I've turned around on some of their newer stuff, particularly Tara, but I still think this album is awesome, absolutely fantastic. Original press on Osmos Records in all the pink and black and white, really gaudy colours there. Next up, Aggressor, Never Ending Destiny. Man, love the cover art on that one. Really fantastic album. Really heavy death thrash almost. Out on Noise Records. This is a really good artwork as well. Love that one. I'm going to burn through these quick because it's quite a big tub. Ancient Rites, Diabolic Serenades. Such an interesting take on black metal. This is more like your early Samael than it is anything else. You know, it's pretty unique stuff, I think. They did a couple albums after this, I'm pretty sure, but I've only ever heard this one out on... Who is this album? I can't even read this one. Midian Creations, I think it says. Midian Creations, yeah. Very early press, very good stuff. Next up, we get... Try and put this in there. Assassin, Upcoming Terror. This is the Steam Hammer press. Awesome stuff. Anything with a tank on it. Man, thrash with a tank on it, it's always going to be good. And I love the photos of the guys there on the back. Awesome. Such a good album. Next up, very underrated, I think. This is Atrocity, Hallucinations. At this point, these guys were sort of weird death thrash, weird technical death metal in sort of an atheist coroner kind of thing going on there. Really good stuff. Production's quite rough and raw, but I think that really helps. I love the artwork on this one too. The album after this is also good, and then, well, they kind of became a bit of a goth band, and not for me, I'm afraid. Next up we have Atrophy, Socialized Hate. How good's that cover? Old Road Racer pressing here. Fantastic thrash. Should be thought of as high as bands like Testament, but I think kind of largely forgotten. They've got two particularly good albums. I'm not sure if they did anything after those two, but yeah, Socialized Hate, awesome album. The best cover art in this box absolutely goes to Attacker, Battle at Helm's Deep. Man, look at the Kmart He-Man there fighting the dollar store dragon. It's so good. This is just straight ahead, heavy metal, bit of an epic flair to it, bit of power metal, but it's mainly just straight ahead, dragon themed heavy metal. And look at that, just amazing outfits. Attacker, so good. It's not a yellow goat, but it is a early pressing white goat. This is the Under One Flag reissue from 1988, I think. So it's not the original 84 press, but it's pretty early on. UK press of self-titled Battery. Absolute classic. Everybody into metal and with vinyl collection needs a Battery self-titled, so I have one, of course. This one, I got this for an absolute song. Black Sabbath Paranoid. When it comes to things like, you know, Black Sabbath particularly, you know, the earlier heavy metal bands, I am such a noob. I don't know anything about this stuff really. I just know what I like, and I have not heard that much to really comment on. But I do like Paranoid, and this is a Japanese gatefold from 1970. This is a 52 6-year-old piece of black wax. Absolutely amazing stuff. Out on Philips, it's a major label, and yeah, it's a gatefold Japanese writing on the inside. So I got that for a very good price. So very happy with that one. Blood Feast, Kill for Pleasure. Look at that. Such a good skull on that one. Again, this is really heavy, quite brutal thrash, bordering on the death thrash. It's that heavy. Absolutely love this album. Band is still going, I believe, but I haven't heard much of the modern stuff. But there you go, Kill for Pleasure, awesome. For me, this is still the best Cannibal Corpse album, Eaten Back to Life. This is the original metal blade press with the original logo there by old what's his face, whose name has escaped me at the moment, Chris Barnes. There you go, Chris Barnes, the logo, and I guess he owns the logo because all the reissues have had the new logo, which is not as good. This is just such a death metal, rough, slimy looking logo. Cover art's amazing, album's amazing. Next up, possibly my favourite album of all time. I've said this before, it depends on the day. Carcass, Symphonies of Sickness, the original Mosh 18 gatefold pressing here. So good. I only got this one relatively recently. I've had the album on CD for a very long time, and you know, between this and Necroticism, it's a 1-2 punch. I don't know what my favourite is, but today I would probably pick Symphonies. Next up, we get Celtic or Celtic Frost with Morbid Tales. Pioneering, of course, pioneering stuff here. This has got, you know, Into the Crypt of Rays, Procreation of the Wicked, Nocturnal Fear. This is... So many bands would not exist if this EP did not exist. It sounds amazing too. My pressing is, again, it's the original press out on, is this Noise? I think it's a Noise. Yeah, it's an old Noise, and it's got a poster with it, and the poster absolutely looks mint. Fantastic. Next up, we get Cirith Ungol, or is it Kirith Ungol? No, that sounds stupid. I think it's Cirith Ungol. 1 Foot in Hell. I'm not hugely familiar with Cirith Ungol. I'm only familiar with this album, and this album rocks. Absolutely amazing. Just sort of straight up heavy metal, but it's got some of that traditional doom metal going on there. Some big heavy American sort of power metal, not European frou-frou power metal, but American power metal, like Metal Church, that kind of stuff. Lots of that in here. Yeah, and look at that artwork, absolutely amazing. Epic stuff, literally epic stuff. Very epic songs. We get Dark Angel, Darkness Descends, and this is a relatively new band to me. I had not heard Dark Angel during all my formative years. It took me a while to get around to this, and it is so good. The opening track, Darkness Descends, and it's you know, it's got that kick drum from Gene Hogan that just sounds, it sounds like Metallica's One, which came out 1 or 2 years later, and lots of rumours saying that Gene actually played the double kick part on One because Lars couldn't do it. I don't know what the truth is to those rumours, but I'd like to believe it's true because it's funny. But great album nonetheless. Of course, Death, Scream Bloody Gore. I think Leprosy is, depends on the day again. It's a bit like Carcass. Leprosy is a technically better album, but I think Scream is just the definition of death metal. It is putrid, it is decaying. Anything before this album, you could say, oh, that's a bit thrashy, that's a bit heavy metal. You can't argue this. This is death metal. There is nothing on here except death metal, and it looks like death. Fantastic. Next up, we have Death Angel, the Ultraviolence, another one that's relatively new to me, like Dark Angel. This is under One Flag Press. Not too sure if there has been reissues of this. There probably has been by now, but I got it for a decent price. Original press does tend to go for a little bit these days, but yeah, really happy to get this thrash in the collection. Again, another band that after the first album I'm not that big a fan of, but the Ultraviolence, ultra great. Next up, Death Row, Raging Steel. I really want to get more Death Row in the collection, including their first album, Satan's Gift. It's also got another name that, depending on the market you're in, I can't remember what the other name is off the top of my head, but the UK and the US markets had different names. I know it as Satan's Gift, but this is Raging Steel. I think this is the second album. It's possibly the third. But whatever it is, I need more Death Row because this stuff is amazing. Next up, we get the amazing Debu Stroll. Oh man, I could not live without this album now that I've got it. Look at that Freddy Krueger artwork. Do you think they paid royalties for? No, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. This is Eastern Bloc thrash metal. They couldn't care less. Neuropathologue is the name of this thing. It actually has a reissue now with the same artwork, so I don't know if they're just continuing their sketchiness or if they've somehow actually managed to pay for it. But you know, Debu Stroll, amazing. This has got to be one of my favourite additions to this box. Definitely a grail that I'm happy to have now. Demigod, Slumber of Sullen Eyes. Amazing Finnish death metal. Possibly my favourite of the death metal bands out of Finland. Up there with Amorphous early stuff. It's a tough call, but man, Slumber of Sullen Eyes, particularly that song itself, which is the closer on side A, is out on Drowned Productions, is just some of the best death metal ever written. I love this original artwork, and I hated the alternate artwork that Extreme Music did. I don't know why they changed it. Stick to the original, guys. It's amazing. Next up, such good thrash. Look at that cover. Demolition Hammer. This is Tortured Existence. I don't have the follow-up album. I do need to get more Demolition Hammer. I've only got this one because it is so good. This is again another one of those thrash bands that's bordering on death thrash. It is that extreme. It's almost as extreme as those shorts there. Holy hell. That is some devastating shorts. Bit of Aussie represent here, which is incidentally in the background we're listening to Cauldron. I didn't shout that out, but here, Destroy 666, first EP. This is 6 songs with the devil. I paid a little bit for this, so I won't be lying, but I didn't pay an extreme amount compared to what it does go for. But I had to have this one. The early Destroyer stuff is just fantastic. Yeah, this is actually sort of technically a demo at this point. Really early days stuff. This is like 94. Is there a date on it? I think that might be 93. Anyway, Destroyer 666, 6 songs for the devil. Amazing EP. Another debut here. This is so good. Destruction, Sentence of Death. Love it. Technically it's a mini album or an EP, but I treat it like an album. It's so good. 6 tracks including an intro, but this is, I don't know, it's not my favourite German top tier thrash, but it is pretty close to it, and I absolutely love particularly this EP or this album. So good. Next up we have Original Press, Disgrace, Grey Misery, Modern Primitive, down there, logo in the corner. Yeah, another one that I pushed the boat out a little bit on to get this copy because I really wanted an original, and it sounds fantastic. I can assure you, I have the reissue as well, which when I showed the reissue, I was intending on buying it on CD because it came with so many demo tracks and all this kind of stuff that made a nice compilation of CD material. And Amazon sent me the LP because the barcodes were swapped. Okay, whatever, so I ended up with a double LP. I have compared them. This original does sound a bit better. It sounds a bit sharper. But either way, Disgrace, Grey Misery, so good. This was another grail I knocked off the list in 2021. Dismember, like an ever-flowing stream. So good. I think I said last year that I would get this album. It would be my grail of 2022. I don't think it even took me 2 months to find it after I made that statement. But anyway, it is one of my top 5 death metal albums of all time. It's probably top 3. The opening riff of Override the Overture is one of the best riffs ever made. It is scathing and a just ridiculously amazing example of what you can do when you crank those HM2s to 11. So good. Chainsaw riffs. Amazing. This one is, I'm very lucky to have this. I paid nowhere near the market rate, so I got this for a very good deal. Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane, original Nuclear Blast on cyan coloured LP, gatefold. Has a little bit of crackle and pop, but nothing overbearing, and man, I don't know what the go is with Dissection albums. You either have to get it with terrible replacement artwork or Korean bootleg. Don't know why Nuclear Blast can't keep these in print. You'd think they would be a license to print money for that label. Maybe it's tied up with the death of John. I don't know. I really don't know. But Storm of the Light's Bane on original LP from Nuclear Blast, amazing stuff. Next up, continuing with the Swedish death metal, we get Entombed, Left Hand Path. Entombed's a one and done band for me. I know that's probably sacrilege to a lot of people. That, you know, Clandestine, amazing, Wolverine Blues, etc. Now, all I really like is Left Hand Path. Demo stuff before it as well, the Nihilist demos and things like that. But Left Hand Path, it's all I need from Entombed in albums, and it's a fantastic album. Exciter, I love Exciter. I've got 4 Exciter original presses, and I had to pick which one to put in the box, so I picked Long Live the Loud. I think it's the most well-rounded of the albums. The albums are all fantastic. They're all fantastic, but Long Live the Loud, and that cover, so good. This is out on Roadrunner. There's the band there on the back, bit of a live show as well. Awesome. Next up, we're still in the E's. Quite a lot in this box though. Exhumer, Possessed by Fire. Fantastic. I need to get the second album as well, but I have heard that one, and it doesn't hold a torch. Torch, get it? Flaming torch. It doesn't hold a flaming torch to Possessed by Fire. I think this one is their best album. There's the guys on the back there. Such a good album. It's out on who's this on? Disaster? That's what it says. I think so. A bunch of logos there on the back. It's out on whatever that is. Yeah, Exhumer. We have Forbidden, Twisted into Form. I have the original album from Forbidden. Name escapes me at the moment. Their first album. I've got that on CD, and I've always liked it, but I never loved it. Not enough to go, I'll listen to more Forbidden, which was, I said at the time I got this LP, that was my mistake, because this LP destroys that first album. It is such a good example of technical, competent, well thought out, clean singing thrash. It is tight and inventive, punishing as well. Such a good album, Twisted into Form. Amazing. If you've only ever heard their first album and gone, Forbidden's not for me, try Twisted into Form, because I did and I loved it. More Swedish originals, Grave, Into the Grave. You'll Never See is another great album from Grave. I have that on CD. But the original LP came to my hands last year. I gotta say, a lot of this box came to my hands in 2020 and 2021. I was focusing on original presses anyway. Into the Grave, and it's got that embossed sort of logo there. If I shake it around, you might be able to see it. There's the guys there on the back. For me, this is just behind Dismember in terms of the original Stockholm Swedish bands. I think Grave this debut is just up there with Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. Amazing. And we wouldn't have At the Gates if we had not originally had these guys. Grotesque. So good. I got this one probably about 4 years ago now. I found it in a record shop. Amazing. Incantation. I paid a bit for it. But, you know, you got to push the boat out sometimes. And I did. This is the original on Dolores Records. It's only an EP, 5 tracks. But, you know, Alf Svensson's on this one. Makes it sort of an extension of the Alf the Gates era. Such a great guitar tone as well. It's an ugly sounding EP. Love it. Incantations by Grotesque. Love this one. Hell Witch with, oh god, Syzygial Miscreancy, whatever a Syzygial is. It's funny with these guys. I bought the CD probably about 15 years ago, and I bought it on eBay. And when it arrived, it was signed, and I worked out because I bought it from the singer. I didn't realise that, but then he sent me a message afterwards saying, "Hey, hope you got the CD, I signed it for you." Okay, great. So that was awesome. And then I went to a record shop, the same place I got the Grotesque, a couple of years later, I think. Had the Hell Witch. Damn thing is signed again. and he's on here on the back. He's all the entire band signed this one, but Die Yuppie Scum I think is from from our vocalist there, who also signed my CD. I think it's even the same blue pen. It's just ridiculous and how that worked out. But anyway, Hellwitch. Oh, such good weirdo death thrash. This band took me a while to get around to. I'll admit it was the vocals. Now I love it. I can't go without this one. It took me a while, but once I got into it, Raging Violence from Hyrax. With old mate here, where is he? Katon DePina on vocals. He's a madman. Apparently he's a real metalhead's metalhead. I've heard stories of, if you're at his hometown and you're walking around and you're wearing a Destruction shirt, he'll just point you out, give you some Hyrax CDs. Like, he's just living the life. I think that's really awesome. So, amazing artwork on this one too. Raging Violence, Hyrax. Awesome thrash. This one. Not many people talk about this one. This is Imperator. What is this album called? I never know what it's called. It might just be self-titled. Anyway, it's the Imperator album. This is some pretty ugly, I guess it's sort of primitive black metal, I guess. A bit like the early first album, Samael, I guess. It's sort of in that kind of pocket, but it's awesome stuff from Imperator. Think they're from Poland. Could be wrong on that, but anyway, had the CD for 20 years. Original CD. Loved it. It's all she wrote, I think. I'm not sure if there's anything else the band did, but when I found the LP, had to grab it. So good. Next one. Of course, I'm gonna have some Incantation. Incantation, Onward to Golgotha. Their debut. Nuclear Blast original. Sorry, no, it's not. It's a Relapse. Relapse original press on red vinyl. I forgot that Relapse and Nuclear Blast America were kind of the same thing at the time. So I've got this on CD and it's a Nuclear Blast CD. But LP, red wax. 1,001 bands, 10,001 bands try to sound like this Incantation album. Next up is Infernal Majesty with None Shall Defy. Oh man, this was another one of those latecomers to me. I only got this last year. I hadn't even really heard the band until last year, but a few people, Extra the Mutilator was one of them, he was telling me I had to hear them. Of course I loved it. It's that early Slayer stuff. You could almost say it's Slayer worship. And look at that logo with the umlauts on it. You know exactly where that's coming from. Very motor heavy, and then on to like Destroyer 666 as well. Look at the band. Look at the leather and spikes. So good. Brutal thrash in that early Slayer vein. Love it. Lost my space here. Where are we? We are here with Creator, Endless Pain. I am an early Creator fan. I would happily survive with just Endless Pain and Pleasure to Kill. That would do me fine. I like Extreme Aggression, but it's a little bit too clean. I know most people actually go to that as their favourite. For me, it's the primitive stuff. With the German bands, it's the primitive stuff. Endless Pain. So good. It even has the song Total Death on it, which Dark Throne then made an album called. So good. Another band I don't know too much of outside of their debut here, Ritual. This is Master's Hammer. This is the Osmos original press. There was a previous edition before this. I think it might have been self-released or on a very small label. Slightly different artwork as well. But yeah, this is the Osmos press, and I do prefer their artwork over the original. But still, this is quite an early press from, what do we got here? 90, doesn't say. It'll be something like 95, 94, there you go, Osmos 1994. Amazing stuff. Early black metal, it almost sounds Greek. So there you go, Master's Hammer, great. We have, I believe from France, Massacre, Vinyl Holocaust. I've got their second album on CD, but this is the debut here on LP. So good. I love this band. It's another one of those bands that's somewhere between death metal and thrash metal. It's more in the death metal. Their vibe is more death metal than it is death thrash, but they're just not full extreme yet. It's a bit like it kind of reminds me of Mortem Demon Tales a bit. don't know why, it just kind of does. I don't think it's that close to them, but I get that feeling. But anyway, so good. Massacre, Final Holocaust. Save that one from the fire for sure. As will I, this very rare one, Mega Slaughter. Calls from the Beyond. This is a Swedish band that does not get spoken about as much because they just don't. They didn't get big. They did this album. They put it out on Thrash Records, but they didn't go to Century Media. They didn't go to Nuclear Blast. They went to a thing called Thrash. But you know, they were a Swedish band. I think they were recording in all the same studios and things. But anyway, it is a phenomenal album. Just ripe for rediscovery. I think there's been a reissue very recently, so yeah, do try and check it out. Mega Slaughter. Love the artwork too. Of course, what firebox is not going to be complete without a bit of Metallica? Kill 'Em All, original Australian press here on Elektra. So it's a couple of years after the original press, but this was the first issue in Australia, which is quite rare to find actually in good condition. Infamously, I found this one up at the local markets just a couple of meters up the road, and I did a video about that time. I couldn't believe my eyes when I found it there. I paid a very, very reasonable price. I have paid more for new albums than I did pay for this. Kill 'Em All, foundational stuff. The Morbid Angel album, that's not really an album, Abominations of Desolation. Effectively, it's sort of the demo track version of mostly Altars of Madness, a little bit of Blessed Art Sick. I think it sounds fantastic. This is sort of the Myke Browning era of Morbid Angel, but all the usual stuff is here. The Trey is just amazing. Pete is fantastic on drums. So there you go. Next up we have Australia represent yet again. Mortal Sin, Mayhemic Destruction. Look at that craptacular artwork. Do you love that artwork? It got reissued with arguably better artwork, but I love this childish, like, it's drawn with passion and not so much skill. I love it. And I love this soundbite in the background on Cauldron. I'd love to know what movie it's from too. No idea. But anyway, Mayhemic Destruction. This was our answer to Metallica. Essentially, Metallica with a sprinkle of Slayer, and that was Mortal Sin, and they were a huge deal in Australia. Absolutely huge deal. They supported Metallica on their very first tour here. Great band. Speaking of Mortem from before, there is Demon Tales. Great band, great album, so good. Just evil death metal, death black metal. Out of Peru, I believe, on Merciless Records. So good. I've said so good like so many times, but that's because everything here is so good. That's why it's in this box. These guys have got a song called Satan 2. Satan 1 was on the demo, I think. So there you go. Demon Tales. Amazing. Next up. Woohoo! Here's a hard one, fine. Mutilator, Immortal Force. With that silver embossed logo. It is too. It's actually embossed on the cover. So good. Early Cogumelo, Brazilian black thrash. It's really just thrash, but everything out of Brazil at this time sounded like black thrash. Primitive, ugly. Just, if you haven't heard this, like, just think Morbid Vision, Sepultura. You're kind of on the right path. So good. Next up, we have a band I need even more by, Nasty Savage, Indulgence. I really want to get the self-titled Nasty Savage. That's high on my wish list. But at this point, it's the only one I've got, their second album. The drums on this, the drum sound is phenomenal. Look at that dude's Pit Vipers or whatever they are there. Nasty Ronnie, look at his sunnies, look at his midriff Nasty Savage shirt. Curtis on drums is breathing fire. Heavy metal incarnate, Nasty Savage. Here's a here's one you don't see that often, and I love this thing, Necrophiliac. Look at that artwork. I don't know what's going on. The baby is coming out of another baby, and there's mutant boobs, and I don't know what's going on in this thing. It is absolutely madness. The album is called Where are they? Yeah, Drowned. Mexican death metal from memory. And I love it. It's quite ugly and primitive, but it's such an enjoyable listen for... It's clearly immature. I think that's really just part of the vibe of this thing. Amazing. This was another one I knocked off last year. I had this originally on this original press back when I did LPs in 2003, 2004. Then I sold all my LPs. Silly me. I got it back again. This was one of the highest grails to get back. Niflheim, Devil's Force. First two Niflheim are untouchable. Self-titled and the follow-up Devil's Force. I think Devil's Force is slightly better. I bought this one from Melbourne. I actually bought this from ex-member of Bloodduster. That's my little story with this one. And I don't think he ever played it. The thing is mint. Absolutely mint. So good. Ripping black thrash. Love it. Next up we have my favourite from Nuclear Assault, Survive. Game Over's good. Game Over's quite primitive, but Survive, they're really firing on all the cylinders here. I've been thinking about getting Game Over, but honestly, I know I would not play it as much as I do Survive. This is, for me, the Nuclear Assault album. I love the nuclear holocaust kind of artwork there. The melting down, exploding stacks there at the nuclear plant. And on the back there, it looks like it's a pizza thrash band. They're having a lot of fun. And they kind of were. They're a bit tongue-in-cheek. Definitely not being a serious band. But, you know, this was their most serious album. And it's still not very serious. But yeah, Survive. Good fun thrash. This is one of 3 albums I've got from Omen. Battle Cry. My favourite by them. US power metal, just sort of straight ahead US metal, epic stuff. You can hear where a lot of those modern new attempts at heavy metal bands in the last few years, I reckon there's a lot of that sound coming from Omen. Bands like Traveller, definitely hear a lot of that. I think, Battle Cry, quite definitive sound for a lot of those modern bands. So yeah, fantastic. Omen, amazing. One of 2 Onslaught albums I got. The Force, lot of love for The Force. This is Flag number 1 too, the very first release on Under One Flag. So yes, the UK press. I actually got this one from Utopia Records. They had a couple of copies of it. So it's not a particularly challenging one to find, but yeah, it's a fantastic thrash album. It's quite fast, quite technical, but not overly. It's not quite a brutal thrash album, but it's I'll just say ripping. It's a ripping thrash album. The Force. Another one from a band. I only have this album and one CD, I think, for the album after, or the third album. Yes, the third album. I've got Feel the Fire on LP, and I've got the third album on CD. Don't have the middle one. Feel the Fire, my favourite Overkill. Absolutely. Amazing thrash. I think, for me, could have quite happily dropped crappy old Anthrax out of the big 4 and thrown in Overkill. Don't shoot me, but, not an Anthrax fan. I am a fan of Oz. So good. Fire in the Brain, Swedish heavy metal. That's Quorthon's hand there holding the skull. He posed for that photo. Fantastic. It's great. Sort of speed metal. Very a bit of Motorheady vibe in there, because it's just sort of, it's got that motorbikes and sunglasses sound to it, Just, yeah, ugly heavy metal. I love it. Oz, Fire in the Brain. This album, I got this was the first record I bought from a particular second-hand record shop that I've gotten so many good things from over the years. In Sydney, this is Paradox. Heresy. And I remember going into that shop going, wow, there's some great stuff here. I hope I find a copy. Oh, there it is. I literally wished I would find it, and it was there within 2 minutes. I have a habit of that happening. Anyway, Paradox. Their first album is great, but it's a band that got markedly improved by their follow-up album. Heresy is everything the first album was and then more. Better production, better quality musicianship, better vocals, better everything. Fantastic thrash album. Out on Road Racer. We have Pestilence Malus Maleficarum. Wow. This is a death metal album I would recommend to hardcore thrashers that want it. It's a little bit harder, a little bit heavier. Early Martin Van Drunen from Asphyx, he was doing the vocals on this one. Still quite thrashy. Album after this, they got more death metal, and this is still death metal, but it is that early, you can pass it either way. Altars of Madness kind of death metal, thrash metal. The same people will turn up for the gig. I think that would have been the same with this first Pestilence. Fantastic. That was an RC Records, that one. I have quite a few Razor albums, but I think Evil Invaders has got to be the best. I hadn't heard the original of this until maybe 5 years ago. I grew up listening to the Hypocrisy cover of the song Evil Invaders, and I always thought that was fantastic. Wanted to check out this band Razor, and never really did. But I really should have. Look at all that stuff there. Motorbikes, Dark Sunnies, studded bullet belts. So good. Canadian speed metal, I guess, really. Sometimes it's thrashier, sometimes it's a bit more heavy metal, but it's always fast and pretty ugly sounding stuff, I think, pretty consistently as well. Like, I think I said 4, maybe even 5 albums from Razor, and they're just all pretty brutal in the speed metal department. This was the first record I bought when I started to get back into LPs in 2017, I think it was. I can't remember exactly now. And I bought this from Utopia Records. They had fresh stock in, original press of Realm Endless War out on Road Racer Records. Always loved this. I got the original CD as well. Clean singing thrash. Sometimes more speed metal than thrash, but quite technical. Big fan of this one. I would like to get the follow-up album. I think it's called Suiciety, I think, from memory, and I don't have that even on CD. So yeah, Realm Endless War. Great big Trojan horse on the cover. This is a fairly unknown one, but when I heard it, I had to buy it. SA Slayer, just to get away from any problems with Slayer. Go for the throat. Just go for it. Choke them out. It's in that other Slayer sound, but with a bit of that Brazilian in there a little bit. It's primitive and ugly. I think it's pretty underrated. SA Slayer, Go for the Throat. I mean, look at these guys. Amazing. Got Camouflage Flying V. So good. We have Sabbath, A History of Time to Come. The debut from Sabbath. I think it's phenomenal. Really, really good thrash. Technical thrash, progressive thrash. If you don't know Sabbath and you like Coroner, similar kind of stuff, but the UK version of it. Awesome. Sabbath. Next up, we've got Sacrifice, Forward Determination. I got this new. It was still in its shrink wrap. I got it off Discogs. This is one of those cases where the LP is a third of the price of the CD. I find that every now and then. Most of the time it's the other way around, but sometimes you get an album like this for 50 and the CD's 150. I was stoked to get this thing still sealed. I had to crack the seal on this 35-year-old album out on Fringe and Diabolic Force. God damn, it's such a ripping thrash album. So fast, so just ruthless. Amazing. Lost my spot again. We have Samael Cemetery Ceremony of Opposites. The third album or second album, and you include the first one as being an EP, however you want to go. I sort of call it third album. By this point, Samael had kind of removed the black metal edge. It's just getting very Samael. It's dark metal. It's deathy. It's doomy in feel, but not sound. It's just because it's slower. I think it sounds more like some of the Greek bands than you might expect this kind of album to sound like. But it is a fantastic album. Not much else really sounds like Ceremony of Opposites. It's Samael. After this was their last album with a drummer, with Zytras doing drums. Then he went to do program drums and focus on keyboards instead, and that became their sound from Passage onwards. And I love Passage, but man, this thing, absolute belter, out on Century Media. This one, another one that was like, I swear it was played once. I got this from a really meticulous Facebook seller. This is Sanctuary with Refuge Denied. Ed Repka artwork on there. It was a band I really didn't know much about. I knew the Nevermore connection with guitarist. That's where he went on to after Sanctuary for quite some time. But I hadn't really heard them, and that was my fault. This is such a good album. Technically very, very sound. Thrash metal, sort of speed metal, power metal, progressive metal. It's all there. It's all wrapped together quite well. I don't want to say thinking man's thrash or anything like that, but it's not just dumb brutal thrash, put it that way. So good. Sanctuary. I can blame half of the VC for this one. Scanner, Hypertrace. A lot of the guys have been talking about this in the last sort of 9 months or so. Matt from the Dark Path, Marty Worm, everyone was talking about this guy. I put it on my watch list and it finally showed up. Hypertrace. They write, it's fantastic. It's that sort of straight ahead, heavy metal, power metal, but not the frou-frou stuff again. It's big and it's epic. Kind of, I don't know. I don't really know where to put this. It sounds a bit like these guys. They're quite well dressed. It's like well dressed US power metal sounding stuff. But I don't think they're a US band actually. I'm not too sure where they're from. Scanner, Hypertrace. They're amazing. I want to get more. Fantastic. Bestial Devastation. This is the original Road Racer. Oh no, it's not. This is the Cogumelo. Whoopsie doodle. It's the Cogumelo release. I thought this was a Road Racer because the logo was different. But this is the reissue Cogumelo did when the original EP was a split with, I think it was a band called Overdose, and it has the old logo on it, and that's incredibly hard to get. Then they reissued it here as 45 with the extra Troops of Doom, which was remastered, and sounds really good. So yeah, just early Sepultura. I really find myself listening to this, Morbid Visions and Schizophrenia the most these days. It's just fantastic. Which, 90s me, I could barely get into that EP and Morbid Visions. They're the kind of thing I left in my CD collection to be a completist for the longest time. I never returned to them. It's only in the last sort of 7 or 8 years that I've come right full circle with Sepultura. Another band, this one was one of those bands that I heard originally. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like it. Long time, Slaughter Strapato. I didn't like it. Then it came up for sale, and I thought, I remember not liking that. I'll give it another listen. And I gave it a listen online, and just slapped myself. What the hell was I listening to before? Brutal Canadian thrash with a guitar that sounds like Swedish death metal. Why would not I have liked this? This is just so good. Another Diabolic Force release. Oh man, I've played this so many times since I got it. And well, if I'm going to have Kill 'Em All, I need to have some foundational Slayer. Show No Mercy. Another band for me. I've regressed go back to the late 90s, I was all about Rain in Blood. Pretty much just Rain in Blood. I didn't give much time to Hell Awaits or Show No Mercy. I don't know, that it wasn't as frenetic and as furious. I think that just put me off when I was going through, you know, I like some thrash, but I mostly like death metal. This is more like ugly speed metal than it is thrash at this point. I mean, it's in hindsight, you know, that's how you look at it. It would have been king thrash at the time, of course. Fantastic. This is, what do they get? This is the Roadrunner original press, obviously Metal Blade for the US, but so good. We're getting there, guys, we're getting there. My favourite Sodom, not even going to lie, In the Sign of Evil. Yep. For me, Sodom is the first EP and the first album. Absolutely. I love the next two as well. Up to Agent Orange is great. And Tapping the Vein is underrated. That is a great album. I kind of don't really listen too much after that. It gets kind of samey, modern sounding. But In the Sign of Evil, ugh. So much black metal would not exist if this thing did not exist. It wouldn't be a proper firebox if I didn't rescue some Testament. This is the New Order. I think it's my favourite. I've got the Legacy as well on CD. I don't have it on LP. I think the progression the band showed on this album puts this one above Legacy. I love Legacy, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that Eerie Inhabitants, Trial by Fire, Into the Pit, I gotta save this one from being burnt in the pit. So good. And back on the Swedish death metal trail, Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells, out on Century Media, original press. One of the easier ones to get of the early Stockholm bands, and for me another one and done. I don't mind the album after this one, but I don't know, I've not made any real efforts to get it. If I find it one day, I might get it, but it's a band that are still going now, and I don't know. For me, all I need is this album. This album is great, and it sounds very different to Entombed, Dismember, and Grave. Like this is the band that sounds the most unique when you compare it to the other three. So yeah, Unleashed, great album. Speaking of Greek bands that I was comparing to before, this is sort of what I'm talking about. This is the original Varathron. His Majesty at the Swamp. I love the original artwork. It's such a cheap release, really. This thing came out on Molen Lave Records and Cyber Music. Now, it's legit. It's real. There's a few things wrong. It's missing the last song on this press. You can see the whole thing is blurry, even the front. It's a blow up from the CD. This is clearly a CD first release. It's completely legit though. It sounds fantastic, so, you know, they skimped on the cover, but the record's great. It is missing that last song. Doesn't really matter too much. It's not a deal breaker. Amazing. For me, Varathron versus Necromantia, it's Varathron every day of the week. So good. This one, Volcano, it's a U. Early Brazilian, brutal thrash, ugly raw thrash. How many bands do a live album before a studio album? Volcano do. This is very early stuff too. This is out on Cibo. What was this? I don't know how to pronounce this. Lunario Perpetuo Discos. Is that the label? I guess that's the label. And it's got a sticker over the top of it from Cibo de Elite Record Store. It has their address of Rua Lisboa 45 and a phone number. Legit Brazilian press from a legit Brazilian store. I love this. It's you can hear the energy and the ferocity of a live show, and these guys, having yet put out a studio album, absolutely kill this thing. Nasty thrash. From like 85 or something. Another recent-ish band for me, Warlord, Deliver Us. Kind of band that I would not have liked even 10 years ago. This kind of heavy metal is something that I had to evolve into. I missed this sound entirely growing up. My metal journey did not include this kind of epic heavy metal sound. I don't own any Iron Maiden, for example. Don't shoot me and stop yelling. Warlord, though, Deliver Us, amazing stuff. And the drums, I think this is 1983, that on Metal Blade, I think it's 83. The drums on this are so peppery. So much little double kicks and triplets and things like that I was just not expecting. And it's fantastically produced. Amazing vocals. And the opening track, Deliver Us from Evil. Great chorus, stuck in your head for days. Here's another one that I had this on CD, on one of those Roadrunner Price Killers CDs, which was the original CD press. I saw this, I had to get it for numerous reasons. One, it's Whiplash. Two, it's Power and Pain, their debut. It's just fast, youthful, snotty thrash. It's great. But three, the stickers in the corner. This was, at some point, a Utopia Records German pressing. It says they're totally evil. Somebody's written in handwriting there. Import. Which means they would have had this in the mid to late 80s in their record store, and that's just impressive to me. It's got the old phone number there, so it's a piece of Sydney history as much as it is a piece of thrash history on Roadrunner, so love it. And the last one in the firebox, this heavy box that I will be trying to yoint into the car if the place burns down, is Xentrix with Shattered Existence. Debut UK thrashers. I do prefer To Whose Advantage, the follow-up album, but this is the one I've got on LP, and it is only a hair's difference in it. This thing is that's a case of a bit more refined second album, and the first album's just a bit more energetic and raw. It's an amazing album. Shattered Existence from Xentrix. So that's my firebox, my crate of records I'm going to try very hard to throw into the boot of the car, along with the cat, the wife and the kid, when this place goes down in flames. Hopefully that will never happen. But my question is to you guys, do you have a firebox, a fire shelf? What's in it? Let's see some response videos. I'd be really curious to see what favourites you would throw into your car if your house was on fire. So let me know. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, check out this thing, that thing, whatever they may be, and make sure you leave a response.